would you describe this year's draft class?
Polarizing. I talked to a GM this morning. He said, I've never seen a draft with such different opinions among GMs. One player that you might rank 5th could be 25th on a different team's board. I think it's going to be a class like 2013 where the best players are not necessarily going to come from the top of the draft. We could see Rudy Gobert go 27th, Giannis Antetokounmpo go 13th. It's going to be a wild night tonight.
All right, so since he knows all the names, let's run our guru through the gauntlet, shall we? I'll ask you some treetop questions, and you're going to tell me what player fits the mold. Okay, so what player do you think has the highest ceiling? By the way, great picture there. The highest ceiling in this draft class.
Alex Sarr has the highest ceiling in this draft. 7'1", 7'4" wingspan. Incredible athlete. Covers ground exceptionally well. Led the Australian NBL in block percentage. Terrific pick and roll finisher. Loves to bust out off the defensive glass. Great out of short rolls. He can make spot up threes. He's the type of unicorn center that every NBA team is looking for.
Okay, so what player do you feel like is a diamond in the rough in this draft class?
Yeah, I think Rob Dillingham is being overlooked by some NBA teams. I was hearing actually this morning that he might start getting looks as early as 5 from Detroit. But, you know, in the week leading up to the draft, you were hearing 10 to 15, which I think is way too low for Rob Dillingham. Rob Dillingham is the most electric player in this draft. He gets anywhere he wants on the floor. He's an outstanding ball handler, pick and roll player. He made 45% of his threes this year. Rob Dillingham has a chance to be a star.
He calls himself Rob with the shifts because he's shifty. What player do you think has the best single skill in this draft class?
Has to be Reed Sheppard as a three-point shooter, made 52% of his threes this season. No first-round pick has done that since Glenn Rice in 1989. He makes the game easy for teammates with the way he can play on and off the ball. He's got a chance to go 3 to Houston. And then Donovan Clingan is the best shot blocker in this draft. He carried UConn, anchoring the paint, blocking shots, operating out of drops, switching and hedging. Donovan Clingan is the best shot blocker in this class.
All right, and finally, who do you think is the biggest gamble in this class?
Matas Buzelis. NBA teams don't exactly know what to do with him. On one hand, 6'10", incredibly explosive. He could be in the dunk contest next year. He's that kind of athlete. He can play make. He can guard multiple positions. He blocks shots. He crashes passing lanes. But he was not overly productive this year with Ignite. He was not efficient. His decision-making left something to be desired. He only made 27% of his threes. Matas Buzelis has incredible upside, but there are questions about whether he's going to reach it long term.
All right, so we're taking a look now at JG and Jason Wu's mock draft. Zachary Risache is going #1 in the mock to the Hawks, followed by Alex Sarr at 2 to the Wizards, and then Reed Sheppard at #3 to Houston. Perk, I'm going to ask you this. Who do you think is the most intriguing player in this draft class?
Well, it's Alex Sarr to me because, I mean, he's already 7'1", right? Long-ass arms. He could tie his shoes with standing straight up. And I wonder, what is his ceiling, right? Like, is he going to be a guy that's going to, like, put in the work, put on muscle? Does he have a ceiling of a Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Like, what type of player is he going to be? We see right now he could get downhill the way that he's finishing with the Euro, his being polarizing at the rim. So I'm looking at this young man, and I'm trying to see, like, can he have that Giannis Antetokounmpo type ceiling?
There were some talks earlier about the fact that Alex Sarr could possibly be the #1 overall pick. We talked about that a lot at the Combine. What was the difference between Zachary Risache at #1 and Alex Sarr?
I think Alex Sarr just didn't want to go to Atlanta. He refused to work out there. And he basically ceded that spot and said, Zachary Risache, it's all yours. He said, Olay.
Which is crazy because Alex Sarr spent time at OT, so he spent plenty of time in Atlanta. You would think he would like that. Austin, other than Atlanta, which team are you watching closest tonight?
The Spurs. Listen, they have the most talented prospect in the NBA right now, and I think surrounding him with proper talent is very important. They have 4 and 8. I love Stephon Castle. I don't know if people really watched him get over screens last year in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. This dude is a defensive menace. His game, his body style reminds me of a Jimmy Butler. People forget that when Jimmy Butler came out on Marquette, he wasn't the most polished scorer. These are things that he really attributed over his time in the NBA. But one thing we knew he could do was defend. He was physical, had a knack for being around the rim, cutting, slicing. These are all things that Castle did at an elite level. I think this is a guy who could develop into a big-time player in the NBA.
I like Dalton Knecht a lot. I think he's NBA ready. He's got size. He's got a little bit of athleticism. He's got that dog in him. Obviously, he's 23 years old, so he's ready right now. He's not a kid. He understands the game. And I think he has the separator that you need to play in the NBA. Shooting. If you can shoot, there's minutes for you available on any team in the NBA. You need spacers. You need shooters. You need guys that can move without having to dribble the ball. He's the guy that can make 0.5 decisions, which means you either shoot it, you pass it, or you drive to the hole. And I think he's going to have a bright career and a bright future. And he reminds me a little bit of Wally Zerbiak, right? He's strong, he's sturdy. He's not going to be too flashy, but he's going to get buckets when you need him to. And I think he's going to have a great, long-lasting career in the NBA.
One of my good friends that I grew up with, he's the assistant coach at UT at the University of Texas, and they played Connect, and he was like, man, hey, Perk, he's a problem, and he's a dog. Like, everything about him is NBA ready. That's what the college coaches were saying about him that had to face him. It was hard to scout on him.
Yeah, for sure. He was an absolute bucket this season. JG, who do you think is the most intriguing player in the draft class this year?
I can't wait to see where Zach Edey goes tonight. I can't wait to see what team picks him, and I can't wait to see what kind of NBA player he becomes. I've been watching Zach Edey since he was a senior in high school. The progress that he's made over the last 5 years is incredible. He's so physical. He's an outstanding offensive rebounder. He's the best screener in this draft. He sucks in the defense on every roll. You have to tag him. He's going to be a guy that defenses have to account for. You're going to feel him on every possession, and he's got a chance to be a starting center in the NBA.
How high do you think that Purdy can go?
As high as 9 to Memphis is what we're hearing.
Okay. Welcome in our front office insider, Bobby Marks, to the set. Bobby, you've been also very busy. Let's look at who the Hawks could possibly take number 1 overall. They're officially on the clock. They have the number 1 pick. They also have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. What exactly do you expect for them to do next?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly, when you're picking number 1, there's a lot of different needs. I think certainly they can go big. A player like Donovan Clingan, certainly a wing with Stephon Richer. They can even go guard and surprise us all and go with a player like Reed Sheppard from Kentucky here. And I think the interesting thing is what happens with Trae Young, their all-star guard. And I think when you talk to teams and you look at the landscape of the league, the window for Trae Young to maximize the most value in a trade, I believe, is closed. I think it closed about 2 years ago. I don't think there's that Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, even that Mikal Bridges package we saw last night. I don't even think they can get something when they traded DeJounte Murray, those 2 picks, and certainly a pick swap that they sent to San Antonio here. So they've got a decision as far as what happens with their backcourt with Murray and Trae Young right now.
But Bobby, why? That's what I'm asking.
No.
Like, why is it? We're talking about a guy that's on a night-to-night basis go out there and get you 25 and 10 assists.
I think how rosters are being built, certainly under this collective bargaining agreement, the days of having 3 max players on there, Trae is certainly one of them. He's got 3 years left on his contract. It has to be the perfect situation there. There's not a list of teams that are lining up. Similar to what happened with Indiana with Tyrese Halliburton. He's on a max contract. Pascal Siakam becomes available. That worked for them. When you look at teams right now, there's not a lot of teams that are willing to kind of ante up all their draft picks to go out and get a player like Trae Young. DeJounte Murray actually has more value than Trae Young at this stage.
Wow.
I do want to mention, because you talked about the new CBA, what team is impacted the most when it comes to this draft?
Yeah, it's all the high-spending teams. So we're looking at 15 at Miami, certainly Boston at 30. Minnesota is at 27. Denver's at 20. It's like the bingo board, right? Denver's at 28. New York tonight is going to be fascinating. 24 and 25. They've got 38 tomorrow night. When you look at, they are hard capped with this trade. Those 2 picks equal $5.5 million total. That is a priority for them to keep those picks right now. So free agency for a lot of teams start tonight with this draft.
CJ, you were literally just saying that. What did you say?
I said free agency starts tonight with the draft because depending on what teams don't want to actually select someone, if they want to trade the pick for potential players, we have Saturday as the date, I believe, right, Bobby? Yep. Saturday is the day where players can kind of opt in. You got the Paul Georges of the world, the OGs of the world that are going to trigger a lot of what other teams do. Klay Thompson, a lot of guys who could become free agents and ultimately change the kind of trajectory and course of a lot of these young players' careers as well. How
much do you expect things to really shake up tonight?
I think it's going to be active. I mean, I think you certainly look at Portland at 7 and 14. I think Donovan Clingan is kind of the wild card right now. If he slides out of that top 3 and is sitting there maybe at 5 or 6, there's a team like Memphis, jump up there and try to pair him with Jaren Jackson Jr. They've been out front saying they want a center here. I think we're going to see as many picks in play that we've seen in recent years. I really expect an active night.
So, Bobby, you're looking at the Spurs right now. We know that Victor Wembanyama, he's a guy that wants to win.
Yeah.
He wants to win now. And so the Spurs have the 4th and the 8th pick, right? If you're Bobby Marks, who is our Bobby Marks, who's still in the front office, what do you do with those picks knowing that you have a guy that could arguably be the best player in the league next year on both ends of the floor? This is not a hot take. It's a real take. Yeah. What do you do if you're the GM?
I'm staying right now. I'm taking Stephon Castle at number 4, and then I'm going maybe wing with Cody Williams from Colorado. The goal, if I was in San Antonio, is to go – I want to be competitive. I want to get to 30 wins here. And then, cross my fingers, I want to take another crack at the lottery next year in 2025. They've got their own first. They've got an Atlanta first. They've got a protected first from Chicago. They've got a protected first from Charlotte here.
Wow.
That's their opportunity to take that next step. It's going to be patience. Now, you got to have Victor on board. You got to have Victor on board with this plan right now.
A lot of people are comparing this draft class to the 2013 draft class. They're saying that this draft class, not as exciting, kind of like that one where Giannis, unfortunately, I'm sorry about that.
It wasn't that exciting.
This is what I was saying about
Giannis exciting now, but he
Everybody's
wasn't
hanging their hat on that number 15
This is not a hot take, but what I will say about 2013 in this year's draft class, I'm going to say that the best prospect in this class is going to be a player outside of the top 10. When we look at it 3 or 4 years from now, the best prospect will be not a player selected in the top 10.
I mean, that's what happened with Giannis Antetokounmpo, so we'll see exactly what happens tonight.
NBA